Alright, let's make some beads now. These are the smallest ones from the set. They're the little tiny barrel beads. And I cut out my silk screen with the template form to fit this bead. And this is what I'm going after. These are silk screened on the little beads. And I'll show you how easy it is to do one, especially if you're doing a silk screen. It was very easy. I'm just going to put a little bit of bacon bond on my bead. And I'm using bacon bond because it's thicker. And I want these to hold on here. It's thicker than your translucent clays are. And I don't want this little piece of clay running off anywhere. And I'm going to smooth it on with my fingers. Just a little bit. I don't want it, I want it sticky. I don't want it slicky. I want to be able to put this piece of clay on there and have it stick to it, not slide off of it. So I put it on the little rod that comes with the kit, the little metal rod, which is so helpful. And I'm just going to lay my clay down on my surface, and I'm going to roll up the bead. And with it being on this metal rod, it's quite easy to work with it in all stages of this. I'm just going to take the handle of my X-Acto knife and blend that seam a little bit. And then I'm just going to work my clay around to where I've got the sides covered with no air pockets. Watch for air pockets. And I'm just gently pressing down. And I'm going to work it towards the ends just by gently pushing it up. Because I'm going to put a bead cap on the end of this before I string it. And the same thing. See this little gap right here? That's where air is. So you want to work that out, or your clay will pop off and you'll have a big bubble there after it's baked. And I'm just gently pushing it towards the ends. And then I'm going to lay it down and I'm going to roll it just a little bit. Very, very gently. Just want to make sure there's no air in there. And that it's covering all the bead with no seam. And that my ends are basically covered. Okay, that's the fourth one of those. Now, let's do another one. These are my skull beads. And this is the same thing you do like with a basic clay that you're going to put a design on afterwards, or you're putting your silk screen on. This is putting a cane slice on. Now these are Ivy Niles skull canes that I got last year, a year before, and I think they turned out really well on these little beads. They're also in a cluster coming out a gate, or actually falling behind a gate on the necklace part. And I slice these extremely thin. Look how thin that is. Now I happen to have a Lucy Clay slicer, so it was easy for me to get it that thin. And again, I'm rolling my bead in my clay, cut out to the template that fits it, gently pressing it on. And we'll take the handle of my X-Acto knife and run over that seam. And again, same thing I did with the silk screen. I will gently push it and work the clay up towards the ends. And when I say gently, I mean gently do this, or your clay's going to go flying off the end of your bead, and you'll have to more than likely roll out more clay. Because if it goes off the end and... Okay, so I've gently pushed this down. We'll take it off and turn it around. Do the same thing to the other end. Just going to keep switching it around. I'm going to lay it down. Make sure it's smooth. Gently roll it on my surface. And I will take my X-Acto knife and pick up my cane. And we'll set him on there. Look how cute he is. Okay. We'll take my other slice I've got to put on the other side. And doing this, I've learned if you're going to put one on one side and one on the other, it's hard to tell, especially if you have a black rim on black clay, that I found if you lay your cane slice down on your surface and then put your other one right over top of it on the other side, then you've got them on both sides quite equally. I'm going to gently roll this and make sure my canes are down. I did cut off a little bit of the black packing on the skull cane let me show you what it looked like to begin with. It had that much packing around it, and I cut it off until there was very little around it, and still not destroying the cane, in order to just have a little bit less packing to work with and make sure it's smooth down on the bead. Okay, that one looks done. If you happen to get any clay in the end of your hole here, just take your X-Acto knife and go around it and pull that clay back out of the hole, because you don't want to clog up your hole with clay and not be able to string your beads. Okay, so these are all my small ones done. And I'm going to let them set to the side. And let my bacon bonds set up some before they are actually going to be baked. I have to show you what I did sketching wise, and this has come in so helpful because I couldn't remember what design or what color that I drew out to put on which bead. So I've referred to it a lot. So I put the silk screen on the small one. I'm doing an orange clay with a black witch's hat on the next oblong one. Then I did black clay with an orange pumpkin, orange clay with a black bat, And this is how I'm going potentially to string them. I'm not going to put them on a string, I'm going to put them on wire. How you can do these on string. On my oblong bead, which is this one, right here, goes my witch's hat. I need to put my witch's hat on lengthwise of my bead. And I'll put a little white band around it and a little white. Okay, I put one of the witch's hats on my clay to begin with. And it's just a little one that I cut out with a cutter. And I made an extremely small white snake. You can't even see that. An extremely small white piece of clay into a little snake to make the band. Then I actually took a piece of that and made it smaller to make the little loop for like the buckle. We'll put, again, some bacon bond on my bead. I'm just going to smear it on there, take it all the way out to the edges. So much easier if you remember to do it on the little metal rod. And just smear it on there. You don't want a lot. Remember, you don't want this clay sliding everywhere. You want to, number one, take control of it and keep it on there. And if you have too much bacon bond or liquid clay, you can use liquid clay. It's just a little bit thinner and a little bit slicker. I'm just rolled my clay up on my bead, gently pressing it together where my clay meets. And I'm going to take my X-Acto knife handle and roll it out. And see the ends where your clay is not exactly the same shape as your bead. Just gently work it in there. And your clay's flexible enough to where it'll work in. Do the same thing to the other end. Watch for air pockets. See where the gaps are? Work from the middle down and put that clay around your bead and gently press it into place. Now I'm going to change ends. Put this back up on my other end. Use my little silicone tip tool here. And run over that seam to smooth it out a little bit more. And to make sure that the air's out from underneath the clay everywhere. I'll push the ends down. When I get the other witch's hat on, if my ends are, I like to let the bacon bond or liquid clay set up a little bit and attach to the clay before I go cutting anything off, but I will cut those ends off if there's too much clay on the end. Okay, we'll take my little snake roll it out a little bit. I'll clean up this bacon bond right there. And I will take a little bit more than what I need. I'll put it where the rim of the hat would be. I'm going to curve it to give this hat a little bit more shape. And not look so flat. If you just put it, see if you just put it straight on there, it looks quite flat. But if you curve it, it will make your hat look a little bit more round. I also want to take the top of it and just gently move it over to one side so it's not straight. Okay, here comes the little tricky part. I'm going to take another, I found this more difficult. I'm not used to doing miniatures and little things this small. I have my little snake of clay rolled out really, really thin. And I'm going to take either my X-Acto knife or my silicone tip tool, and I will make a little circle. This is going to be the buckle on my hat band. And then I'm going to take my X-Acto knife and get that in there a little bit better. And lift it right out. Lift my hat up. And turn my X-Acto knife over. And put my little buckle on there. Now, there's my little hat. Doing raw clay to raw clay. So I don't need anything to hold my hat on. And we'll put it down there. I'm going to take the handle of my craft knife and just gently roll over this to make sure that my witch's hat's on there. Let me take it off the rod for a minute and show you. See this little pieces right here? I'm just going to go in there and cut that off. Then gently press it down again to make sure that the air is not trapped in there, and that it's adhered to the wooden bead. Again, doing the same thing to that end. So here's this witch's hat bead, and here's this one. Here is my round bead. This is the big one with the bat on there, and I just put little tiny eyes on the bats. This is the next largest round bead. I put my pumpkin on there from my pumpkin cutter. And all of this clay, no matter if it was going on the bead or being cut out, I rolled it out to a number 5 on my atlas. So that's pretty thin. So everything was on a number 3. And I'm put a little face on my pumpkin. And those are ready to string. Okay, just cleaning out the hole there. Make sure it's all clean and free of clay. You're basically doing half a bead at a time. And your seam goes around the center. Okay, I'm going to carefully take this off and turn it around. And I'm going to do the same thing. I have another circle cut out. I'm going to put my end of my tubing into the center of my circle and push it through. And push my clay down. Take my silicone tool and start from the top and push it down. And then I'm going to stretch these two, gently press them together until they meet. And it doesn't have to be exactly in the center because you're going to get rid of your meeting line anyhow. So as long as they meet, and keep pushing the clay from back at the center hole down. Just don't try to stretch it right there where you need them together. Just don't go here and push in. Work from back here. That helps keep the air out. And it doesn't make your clay too thin anywhere. And just keep pushing it together. See, these are a little bit more time consuming, I guess would be the answer. They're not hard, they're just a little bit more work than your oblong beads. Okay, I'm going to roll it gently. The main thing with this one is make sure your air's out. If you don't get it out, it's going to bubble. Just like on a pendant or a pair of earrings. If you've got air trapped in there somewhere, heat expands that air and it's going to bubble up. And you can't get rid of it. Okay, let's see what we have here. I'm going to roll this just a little bit. Need to get the bacon bond off my hands. No. I'm going to roll it just a little bit. Okay, there we go. I'm going to take just a handle, and you can use a handle of anything. I normally would use my smallest clay bender for this, cane bender, to do this. But I don't have it over here right now. But I find if I work with something small, then I have a tendency not to put as much pressure on things. Okay, that may cut part of this hole out right now. I'm not. That's why I say let it set. Let that bacon bond or liquid clay or whatever you're using set up on your clay. Okay, on this one are going my bats. Let me get down right there, this little piece right here. It's going to be my eye on my bat. I'm just going to press those down a little bit. Pick it up with my craft knife. And set the bat on my bead. And gently push it on there. And cut out another little tiny piece of white clay. And that's my eye for here. And my eye for here. We'll pick it up with my craft knife. And these don't have to be straight on there, you know, they're bats flying around. And we'll take the handle again of my craft knife and just gently roll over it. Get the air out from under it. Make sure it's attached to your clay on your bead. And that's it. Make sure you go through both holes so you have clean holes on both ends. And so I've got these two beads. I've got my pumpkin beads. I have two of those. And they're not going to set up. There we go. I have two of my witch's hat beads. I have four of my little silk screen beads. Then I have four of my little skull beads. And this is basically every bead that's in your kit and every size they're in.